This is Sway.
Sway.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Shake it.
Wake your fuck ass up.
Crust out your eyes.
You know, it's a time right now. We've been trying to keep this conversation open for the past years. The 1 year anniversary of the murder of Mike Brown, and also the anniversary of the St. Louis and Ferguson community taking a stand against police violence and systematic oppression. We've been talking about this since it happened, Heather B. Expressing, you know, our concern and our anger in many cases about the relationship between law enforcement and the people of the community that in which they're supposed to serve and protect. And in the murder of Mike Brown, you know, it just brought a lot of concern to the conversation to the nation's conversation. A lot of us have been angry.
Right.
You know.
Definitely.
Even prior to the murder of Mike Brown, a lot of us have been angry. My mother has been angered. My grandmother has been angered about the way that our community is treated, especially by law enforcement. And it's sad. I think it's sad to a lot of us that these things still take place and that nothing seems to be done about it to correct it.
Right.
You know, we have a glitch in the system. You know, we have a dysfunctional system that seems to prey on people of color or people who are disenfranchised from the so-called American dream, people who live in lower tax brackets. You know, it doesn't seem like there's any justice headed our way.
Right.
So as a result of Michael Brown's murder, you saw a lot of people in the community start to take action for themselves and getting on front lines and protests. A lot of protests were characterized as, you know, coups, or, you know, people were tearing down buildings or tearing up communities, when that wasn't always necessarily the case, you know, and those who were doing it had nothing to do with the protest itself. And a lot of that media coverage took the attention off the real issues that we're facing with law enforcement and members of the community and our judicial system and the way things have been handled with people of color, really over the decades, over the centuries. And so we wanted to play our part being a platform of communication that, you know, it's broad and wide across the world, and keep this conversation going, because once you forget to stop talking about it, people tend to forget, and then other things start to take precedence or take the lead. Like we talk about rap battles, or we talk about, you know, fashion, or we talk about reality stars, or we talk about all these things. Meanwhile, kids are still being killed in the streets. Adults are being killed in jail cells, and no one's being punished for it. So today we got very special guest. Kayla Reed is a field organizer for Organization for Black Struggle and is a coordinator for the commemoration weekend events that will be taking place. Can you tell us about that, Kayla?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
welcome to the show, Kayla.
thank you.
Hey, Kayla.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. So, there are a group of us, the Ferguson Action Council, who came together after the death of Mike Brown, who have worked together to put on a weekend of events starting Friday, August the 7th to Monday, August the 10th. And it's an array of things. We have a couple concerts headlined. We have some panel discussions around policing and intersectionality. We have some trainings around de-escalation, medic training, legal observing training, cop watch training. We have some documentaries that were made in Ferguson being shown that weekend, all leading up until August 9th, when we commemorate, when we remember the life of Mike Brown and what he did for the community, and also the people that responded to that injustice and stayed out almost for 365 days. So we want to uplift those people, but also remember all the people whose lives were lost to make this possible. And in a way, build community to talk about the next steps.
Do you guys get the same amount of attention that you got back then? Obviously not, right? What kind of role has the media continued to play in terms of getting your information out since then?
Well, it depends on the outlet.
Okay.
So some media people are not our friends. And so I think that 1 year in, there's a different momentum around Ferguson. People didn't think that we would be here this long. Yeah. And we will be in this work this long. So I think a lot of people are coming back who support us, right? Like we're here with you, who you're very conscious about this situation. So it's not trying to appeal to the Fox Newses anymore. It's not trying to appeal to the CNNs. It's trying to figure out like who is actually pushing the message that there are people on the ground organizing Black communities to fight a system that was built to oppress them.
Crazy system, ain't it? And when you mention that the system is built to oppress people of color, people look at you like you insane or like you're radical, right? Or like you on some extreme.
Exactly.
Right?
They do.
And how do you argue that to folks who believe different?
I mean, numbers don't lie, right? We've had almost 1,000 police shootings in the last year. And in areas where transformation allegedly took place, like Cincinnati after the 2001 riots. Yeah. You just saw Sam DeBoe get killed on camera, right? And it takes a camera to get an indictment. So the numbers are definitely on our side with saying that we have too much work to do, and we're not making this up.
That murder is unbelievable that we watched that and witnessed that like we did, right?
And it takes a camera to tell people the truth.
In that extreme, he had to lose his life, right, to further the struggle.
Right.
Tef Poe.
Yes, sir.
What up, man?
How you doing?
Doing okay.
Word.
Have to be. He's an MC. This man came off the road to start joining the protests and organizing people in different communities to bring awareness to what's going on in this injustice. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. This work is stressful. You take on a lot of burdens, but overall, I'm doing good. You feel me?
What are some of the burdens that you take on with doing this work? And talk about that.
I mean, what we're doing is going against the popular opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like the popular opinion is that police get cats out of trees and paint white picket fences. You know what I mean? So like when you get a group of Black people essentially saying what some people deem as a politically incorrect term, you know what I'm saying? Like the reality of the situation for us is that Black people are oppressed globally. Not just within our community, not just within the confines of this country, but globally. We're globally the last people on the totem pole. You understand what I'm saying? So like what we're doing here in Ferguson is we're in the belly of the beast because we're young Black Americans in the belly of the beast. All of the BS starts right here in America. So like we're the front line of defense. You know what I'm saying? Like if there is going to be such thing as Black liberation on planet Earth, it's going to start with us, the Black Americans.
The Black Americans.
So-called Black Americans.
Okay. This event this weekend is a title, a theme to it?
Yeah, so United We Fight. Because, again, it was what happened in Ferguson was nothing short of amazing, that these people decided to stay out in the heat. When they told us we couldn't stand still when there were tanks and tear gas and rubber bullets being shot at people. It inspired a nation in a way that hasn't been done in some decades.
You experienced that personally?
Yeah. So on August 9th, we went out together. And before that, I was a pharmacy technician, right? And so I'm filling prescriptions, and I look on Facebook, and there's a young man who lives in the neighborhood that I grew up in, right? Like I grew up in the neighboring municipality to Ferguson, went to the same high school where Canfield Green Apartments, they go to that same high school I graduated from. So this was my neighborhood. I went to that Quick Trip religiously for my morning tea, gas, all of that. And so to be in a situation where what happened in my community, like radicalized St. Louis, was amazing. And then to see that ripple effect happen throughout the country, there are no words to describe how I feel about.
What the problem that I saw too was there were a lot of protests, but there were a lot of people that weren't about protesting injustice in this system that has been built to oppress. There were a lot of dudes doing some ignorant shit to me that was just taken away from what the real purpose was there. Are there courses or training or information that you guys give folks who join, United We Stand, and how to conduct yourself publicly to make an effective protest or march or whatever the case may be? It was any training or
massive trainings? I mean, I think behind the scenes people don't really understand just exactly how organized we really are.
Yeah.
We were fighting a militaristic front in Ferguson. Like a lot of people are confused about what exactly was going on. Our neighborhood was occupied similar to how an apartheid inflicted neighborhood is occupied. You know, there were walls and streets were blocked off. You couldn't leave your house at certain times.
This is in Ferguson?
Yeah, people
Right.
couldn't go to work. People couldn't go grocery shopping. It
People
was
lost
a
their
curfew.
jobs,
There
their
were
apartments.
internet blackouts. I mean, it was a literal attack from America on a black community. And I think we get a little bit frustrated when we talk about it because, A, there's still a lot of trauma attached to it. You know, similar to what she was saying, we were regular people who just wanted to know what was going on. We leave the house, by the bam, I mean, an all-out onslaught comes.
Yeah.
You know, and I was there early on, and I can testify that the police were the agitators, you know, and in most cases, the police were always the agitators. They would use simplistic stuff like somebody throwing a water bottle at them to, you know, be an excuse to just desecrate an entire street, you know. And I pulled children out of tear gas before, not just myself. You know, I don't want to make it unique to my experience because a lot of us went through this. You know, I got people who I know who almost died from getting hit with rubber bullets, people who were maced to the point where they were hospitalized, you know. Young women who were some of the earliest people to get arrested, and we didn't know how we were going to get them out of jail. You know, there's brothers still locked up who had warrants, but they were like, man, fuck it, I'm pushing. You know what I'm saying? And those are the people that I look at and I say, you know what? I feel that's my attachment to the movement. You know what I'm saying? I'm here for those folks. I'm here to be one of those representatives. You know what I'm saying?
That's what's up. We have Kayla Reed and Tef Poe are here representing United We Stand. Go ahead.
United We Fight.
Oh, excuse me. United We Fight. Thank you, Kayla. And there'll be a series of events taking place this weekend, right? And how can people find out more information?
So you can go to fergusonaction.com or you can text hands up to 90975 to be plugged into the events that are happening. There also is a national request, right? The family of Michael Brown Jr. has requested that on Sunday at 11:55 a.m. Central Standard Time that people observe a national moment of silence for 4.5 minutes, representing the 4.5 hours that his body laid on the ground in the hot sun, right? And our response to that being met with more violence. And then there's also Moral Monday, which we classify as the Turn Up Day, but it's a National Day of Civil Disobedience.
The Turn Up Day.
The Turn Up Day.
Okay, that's Monday. Okay.
Yeah, it's Monday. But what we're looking for is that, you know, all these documents are being presented proving what we've been saying since August 9, 2014, but there is no federal intervention. There are a lot of recommendations, right? There are a lot of what you should be doing, but there's no facilitation on the federal government's part to actually make this happen in a way that's not suggesting body cameras, right? That's not just saying Ferguson is racist in the Department of Justice report. Like, what are you actually doing to transform the system that is oppressing our people?
Well, we want to talk more about it, and I want to open the phone lines, 888-742-3345. Give us a call, Sway in the Morning. Sway in the Morning, that's Mike Muse. Met him, he's a member of the Donda House. Matt Muse. Mike Muse, that's political name. Matt Muse. He's a member of Donda House. We met him a few weeks ago, and he performed this song before we played a movie that we executive producer called The Psycho, which deals with the relationship between law enforcement and members of the community. Matt Muse. I told you we were going to play it. We have some of the organizers from United We Fight. Kayla Reed is here. She's also a field organizer for Organization for Black Struggle. We also have Tef Poe is here, who's an artist and has been a part of organizing the community since the murder of Michael Brown. To this weekend, Kayla, can you repeat some of the events that are taking place if people want to participate?
Absolutely. So United We Fight starts August 7th and lasts through August 10th. And we have a variety of events. We have some mass meetings, trainings that go throughout the weekend, some panel discussions on policing and intersectionality in the movement. We're showing some documentaries. One featured is Whose Streets by Damon Davis. And then we also have some concerts. You have some concerts. You know, we're approaching an election year soon. You know, we're starting to see these debates take place with the GOP. We'll see it also with the Democratic Party as well. You know, working with MTV for the past 15 years, it was really important for me to be a part of the political arena and utilizing that platform to bring information to that audience, to a younger generation, and kind of, in layman's term, break down, you know, some of the policies and that's gonna affect young people in America, you know, people of color in America as well. How important is it that folks now be a part of this very same system that we feel is flawed and dysfunctional, but to go out and vote and try to put people in office
that maybe can affect change, that you believe at least once they get in office will do what they say and affect change? How, Tef Poe, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm gonna preface this with you might be hard pressed to find a person that registered more people to vote than myself.
Wow, that's good.
But since Ferguson, you know, I had a couple moments where I really began to analyze and really look at electoral politics from a different lens. You know what I'm saying? I strongly believe in the power of local politics on a certain level, on a very minute level. That, you know, there's something there that you can move around and set up the chessboard with. But even aside from that, like, I've really noticed within this movement, like, a lot of the black politicians just don't cue into the dialogue. You know what I'm saying? So it puts myself and other people like me in the position where it's like, yo, why should we support y'all? Because on a certain level, I'm feeling like now y'all need to become the targets. You know what I'm saying? We spend so much time barking at people that don't look like us for accountability, but what about the accountability from people that do look like us, that are in power? You know, what does that look like? Or on a certain level, you've deceived us worse than the white people. You know what I mean?
You speak about accountability. I got Darius on the line from Nashville that has a question that addresses accountability. Darius, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Darius.
So how are you guys?
Doing okay. What is your question for Kayla and Tef Poe?
Yes. First of all, because some people who aren't listening to me really aren't going to understand what I'm asking, and I'm not dissing any of the protesters. If you guys have never been tear gassed, let me tell you, that shit ain't no joke. I'm not dissing anybody, but my question is, basically, when do we, as a people, start targeting our own to handle these problems? When do we? It's a tough thing to say because obviously there's racial, issues going on. Obviously there's stuff going on, that needs to be addressed. But as a community, when do we start taking our own people in and we start educating them on the way that, our culture is?
So I think that things like that are already happening. So I think that question is often asked, what are we doing inside of our communities? And so Tef just referenced that he has registered more people to vote than a lot of the people who are in this movement. And we work in two folds, right? So we work in the process of empowering our community and bringing resources into the community to engage them and bring them to the table. But we also have to transform them to want to work on this system that's oppressing them. And so it's very easy to turn in on the black on black situations, but we have to look at the external the external influences that impact our communities, right?
And then also we gotta really be real about it. Like, I'm gonna start holding us accountable when white folks start holding people like Charles Manson accountable. You know what I mean? Like, when a person, the dialogue has to be equal on both sides of the fence. Like, it's always the finger pointing at the oppressed party. When are y'all gonna pull yourself up by the bootstraps and fix this mess we dropped you off in? I mean, on a certain natural level, what you're seeing is how you naturally respond to the circumstances that we were given in this country. So we strongly believe in accountability for our own people, and that's why you see people running programs in the hood. We got a breakfast and a book program. We got a tech program. We got a
youth fellowship program that teaches people how to organize.
Exactly.
All of these things happen, but it's also saying what got us here, and those systems are the problem, right, in a large way. And so this idea that you're pulling people up by the bootstraps and you're saying that you need to get yourself out of this situation, but why are black communities in the situation that they're in and who are making these decisions? You go downtown in St. Louis, in the city that's majority black, and we only got 5 black alder people, right? And so it's not saying get people out to vote. It's also teaching them that these people make a difference. It's not just the presidential elections. It's every March. It's every November. It's every time that you need to go vote to also do that, but also go back into your communities and empower people. You learn something, go teach somebody else something. Meet people where they are.
Okay. Heather?
Yeah, I think, Kayla, you just touched on something that's been bothering me just from something I noticed. I noticed when there's these big presidential votes and maybe governor, you see this big pour out. But I think what people don't know, and you guys, you're doing a great job at registering people to vote, but what about the information about prosecutors. Those are elected people. And we get so mad when you say all the police officers are not guilty. Well, they're in elected position. Do people know? And how do you go about letting the communities know when you have a prosecution election coming up? I think it starts immediately right there. Okay, the president is who it is, but sometimes in your local community, you're voting these people in and then surprised when police officers are getting off. How you guys plan to go about getting that information to people as well?
Yeah, so last year, August, I think it was August 7th, was the primaries in St. Louis County, which got Bob McCullough advanced to be elected. And so August 9th happened, and there was this moment of awakening that people wanted to know, like, what can we do to get him out of office? But we had missed the primaries. And so it's understanding where we flawed before, but then correcting that. So saying, like, we need to have community meetings and mass meetings and house meetings to not only talk about who needs to get in office, but what's the responsibility of that person once they get in office, and how to hold the person accountable that's already in office. Can we recall Bob McCullough? Absolutely. Right. And so do we have the manpower to get that done? We need to look at that. There's an effort to recall Ferguson's mayor right now. And we got the signatures, and they said we were 27 short because they couldn't verify the handwriting because people who registered to vote when they were 40 are now 90.
That's actually
That's still going on?
Yeah.
Like, you got to count how many M&Ms are in the jar still?
Right.
You know, that's still, they couldn't verify the signature.
And that's actually
27
been
of them.
suppressed twice. You know what I mean? So, like, that deals with, like, when people say, like, so what are y'all doing? Like, people hit the ground working immediately. Like, I remember being on West Florissant and seeing the new Black Panther Party registering folks to vote. And I know that they're an organization that doesn't necessarily strongly believe in electoral politics.
Yeah.
So, like, I think also, you know, another layer to the dialogue is that, you know, I remember being at the Ferguson Police Department, and a lady came out to kind of, you know, calm the flames, and she was like, well, y'all don't vote. And I said, when did a ballot turn into a bullet? You know, like, so, like, how does this vote
Equate to
sway a
Save a life.
racist? Like, if let's say we did organize and get Bob McCullough out of there. In our specific state, in the state of Missouri, the next candidate would have just been just as racist. You know, so, like, I think that there also comes a time where we have to reanalyze that as well. And I swear to God, like, this is all stuff I've been thinking about for like the last 6 weeks. Like, on a certain level, I remember when Martin Luther King said, I'm leading my people into a burning house, 1968. That's when Martin Luther King he started to get radicalized because he started to think like, yo, this is a poor people's movement. This is an economical piece. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to battle, not only, like, if we're feeding into, like, capitalism as a machine with our ballots, you know, we're putting Wall Street oriented people in the White House. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't even have the knowledge to know that these jokers ain't even politicians for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all a game of manipulation on a certain level.
Okay, Tracy?
Yeah, my question for the both of you, I think in general when it comes to our nation, we have really faulty communication between races. Like, and I'm thinking, and not even my own personal thoughts from conversations with some, like, white friends. And, you know, if you're empathetic, you can kind of see maybe some white folks are not as easy to receive our issues because of the lot of ways that folks in our community will communicate it and just be, like, very aggressively angry. We see that on Twitter, like, all of the time, you know? And so maybe some white folks are thinking to themselves, all right, I feel like a casualty of, like, all of this old history and it's not directly affecting me and I'm not racist. But then we have, like, so much internalized anger from years back that's been passed on along with all the social injustices as Black people. What can we do? Like, if you're a white person trying to receive this, what's the best way to be a listener? And then as a Black person, what's the best way to be an effective communicator?
Yeah, so I think one of the questions that we deal with a lot, right, and it's valid, is how white people show up as allies in this movement space, right? And so a lot of, you know, our elders would say, well, it was the civil rights movement, right? What would you be doing then? And it's not so much of asking the question of how do I communicate to the Black community that I want to help, right? It's like, how do I communicate to the white community that it's a problem within the Black community that we need to, like, check our privilege and make sure that we are helping dismantle this system.
Right.
And so it's not, I'm a firm believer in meeting people where they are, but it's the responsibility of me as a Black woman to meet my Black community where they are and understand that when a white person says, hey, you know, I don't know how to show up, that's a level of privilege, right? Because you're not dying. right? In a way that my people are constantly being killed every other day, every day, every day, every day. It's get to the point where we don't have the names because they happen so fast, right? Where Sam DeBoe, this video comes out, Sandra Bland happens, you got Kendra Chapman, right? And Freddie Gray happens, and then it's time to talk about the 1-year anniversaries with no justice. And so as a Black woman in this movement, it is realistic for me to say that I'm busy trying to help my people. Right. And I think that you have to turn around and talk to your people too.
But do you think it makes people like more angry if you look at it as privilege? Because I always tend to think people know the most about things that directly affect them. You know, like I'm not sure how many Black people would really understand the struggle of Mexican immigrants right now to the full extent that they understand their own struggle. And every time I hear the word privilege, sometimes I feel like it just heightens anger because of all the history that comes with that word, when it's just someone like innocently not knowing. And it's not even like, I don't think privilege is something you activate. It's almost like innate, and you have no idea until someone targets you and calls it that. Does that make sense?
I think it does, but I think also that's risky territory because white privilege is so strongly attached to racism, which is so strongly attached to the demise of people. So it's like I can give you a pass on a very minute humanistic level because I'm a human being that has a heart, but in all reality, you don't even deserve that pass on this subject. Like I can't give a rapist a pass because he doesn't understand the privilege of masculinity. Like that's rape. I can't give you no slide on that.
I understand.
And like racism is attached to the eventual genocide of a people on a certain level. So I can't necessarily give you a total complete pass on that. You know.
And there are entry points, right? Like in St. Louis alone, we have so many organizations that are tailored to that concept, right? That if you're a white person and you don't know how to show up, right? We got White Folk Work, we got the Anti-Racism Collective, we have South City Solidarity, whereas neighborhood organizations kind of forming to have these internal conversations. Because I don't know what it means to be privileged, right? I don't know what white privilege means. Like I can't help you work through that. But what I can direct you to people who can do that, right? And then hopefully through that you learn how to become a better ally. Right. And through that, then we can do some work. And I think that that's the point that people have to get at is you have to be willing to do the work, right? Every excuse that you give yourself to not do it, whether it's saying like, oh, they say Black Lives Matter, or they're saying like it's not a space for white people, whatever you're telling yourself that's keeping you on your couch, you need to stop telling yourself that and stand up and go do something.
Right.
United we fight. Kayla, Tef Poe, thank you for coming through this morning. We're going to keep the conversation going. Maybe y'all could call in next week, too, and tell us how things turned out and what's next. And if people want to become a part of the movement and they want to find out more about this weekend's event, give them some information how they could get involved.
So 2 options. You can go to fergusonaction.com. It has all the events and schedules, or you can also text 90975 with the words hands up.
Kayla, I'm going to ask you to slow down, Kayla.
Sorry.
You're rapping to us right now.
You can go to fergusonaction.com or text hands up to 90975.
Okay, great. And Tef Poe, what's if people want to reach you guys, do y'all have personal things?
Yeah.
Tef Poe, just get at me on Twitter at Tef Poe, TEFPOE Twitter. Handsupunited.org. We have a few programs going on right now. We have a tech program that drastically needs help in order to be sustained. We send children and young adults through we teach them how to code in 6 weeks. We hope that they use this as a tool of resistance to help build a community. The last class built a series of websites for a bunch of Black business owners. India Irie ended up hiring like 6 of the students to work on her personal website. But this time around, we just don't have the means because the issue isn't as popular as it was back when we started it. So we really need as much support as we can to sustain this program. So
I really want to commend you guys. You're very motivational, you know, and taking, like you said, find a reason to get off that couch. I really want to commend you for being in these front lines and keeping this conversation going. This is the kind of leadership that I think the community needs as a whole. First and foremost, obviously in the Black community, but even beyond that, this is the kind of leadership we need in our government. You know, people who are dealing directly with the people and not writing up these paper tiger policies that don't impact our lives at all. We don't reap the benefits of none of it.
Right.
You know, so keep up the great work. As long as I have a platform, you will have a platform to speak on.
We appreciate that.
Okay? Give them a round of applause.
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shade 45.